Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the TIMS webinar. My name is Mike Fitch with the Ohio LTAP Center here at ODOT, and we appreciate your participation. As we get started, please take a moment to locate the questions box in the GoToWebinar panel. During the presentation today, please use the questions box to send in any questions you might have, and we will discuss most of the questions at the end of the presentation. With that, we will go ahead and turn things over to Katy Lewis. Hello, Katy.
Hi, good morning. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, I'm Katy Lewis. I work in ODOT's Division of Planning and Office of Data Governance, and I'm a main support person on the team behind TIMS. So we're going to spend the next hour going through this TIMS application and welcome you to follow along. All you need is a web browser, and we'll step through how to access the application, or you're welcome to just type in the URL. So I have a couple of slides. Mostly we're just going to be doing live demos, but just to keep us on track and make sure we cover everything in this short hour, I have a few slides that I will flip through. And I'd like to just introduce the people behind TIMS. We're pretty much a small group. The first three folks listed on this slide are who are going to respond to your questions if you contact us at tims@dot.ohio.gov. But of course, we have a lot more expertise and folks supporting us on the IT side, as well as software development behind our new enhanced TIMS site. And so let's talk briefly about this new site. If you've used TIMS before, you might be familiar with the image on the left of this slide. This is the version of TIMS that we've been using for 10 years, but we've been working really hard on the back end to roll out this new enhanced application. Times are always changing, so we need to make sure that behind the scenes we've got all the most up-to-date technology and secure databases and all of that good stuff. And we hope that in making those changes, we were also able to incorporate some really great enhancements to make the application better for the users, for you guys. So we want to keep both versions available right now until we're able to ensure everyone's had access to training and that they're comfortable. The old URL would have been GIS at the beginning and then /TIMS at the end. You can still get to that by manually typing in the _classic, and then you can bookmark that site. If you just have the old site bookmarked without the _classic, it's going to automatically redirect you to the new site. And it's got a different look and feel, so you'll know right away which site you're looking at. Okay, we are going to jump right into the application now. And of course, I guess I should introduce TIMS itself. Hopefully you're already familiar with it, or you're curious, you've heard about it. It's ODOT's web mapping portal, where we provide a lot of transportation related data and give you lots of tools for finding and discovering that data, visualizing that data on maps, downloading and sharing that information. And the structure of today's training, we're going to step through each of the links on the homepage. Those each represent a page within the application. We're going to spend most of our time in this Create a Map page. That's where we have almost all of the data that we make available, and where we can highlight all the tools for how you can interact with that data. But first, a quick overview of the homepage. We might come back to this page as our landing page throughout the training today. We have some basic links on the left-hand side, and you can get to ODOT's homepage, where if you forget how to get to TIMS, you can remember on the homepage there's a link down under top searches. And then the TIMS logo itself will always get you back to this homepage. And now on this header bar, starting all the way over on the right-hand side, we have this notification bell. If it's the first time you've accessed this new site or you're on a new browser or new computer, you may see a notification banner across the top of this page. You can X out of that, and then your browser in your cookies, it will remember that you've already read that. You don't need to see that every time you open the home page. But you can always access all of the active notifications through that bell icon. So we've got a welcome notification. Welcome to our new TIMS and some information about accessing the classic version. And then we have this notification about GCAT. We're not going to cover GCAT, the crash analysis tool, at all through this training, but there used to be a portion of TIMS that was dedicated to this crash data, and there would be separate trainings available for that. The safety team is now moving in a new direction, and they're going to be hosting all that data through an application called AstroWare Safety. So we have some links there to get access and get training resources for that. And then, of course, while we still have the TIMS Classic application available, you can still use that GCAT tool through there. I'll close that notifications window. And then the next icon over is the information and support page. I try to come back to this page at the end of all of the trainings because I really think if there's one takeaway from today, it's that you remember to go to this page, because this is where we have links to a lot of training resources. You can download the TIMS user guide as a PDF and then search through that. And we've been trying to make short, focused training videos, so you can flip through and watch any of those. They should also include bookmarks, so you can like jump to a certain section. And of course, on this page, we have our contact information. If you ever have questions or you experience a technical issue, please reach out to us. We welcome all kinds of feedback and questions and suggestions. So you can initiate an email with this contact button or just type in our contact information, tims@dot.ohio.gov. And then, of course, we still have our search by PID shortcut. And I'm going to go ahead and demo that. You can see my browser remembers when I was, last time I typed in a PID number. So I'm just going to go ahead and select that. And I'm going to hit the enter button. And it's going to take me to this project search page. And we'll start from scratch with this page. But just a quick overview, if you use TIMS to get that project information, you would type in your PID, it would bring you to this page. You get project location records. There's going to be one record for each location stored for that PID. And just a subset, the information here in this results table. You can get more information by clicking the PID number. That is a link. You can just click the link, but for the training, I try to always right click, open in a new tab, just kind of helps me stay focused. So here we have all the information that we store in TIMS for that project, just spread out on a page view. You could use your browser's print tool to print this out if you want. And I always like to point out the links that are available towards the end of this page will take you directly to the Office of Contracts digital paper application, where if the plans are loaded into that system, you'll get links and be able to view those there. Okay, back to that project search page. I also want to highlight that you can select these records, and then you'll see this View in Map button. You can click that button, it will take you over to the Create a Map page. So this will be our first quick overview of where we'll be spending most of our time today. And over my Wi-Fi, it's going to take a quick second, but it's going to zoom to those project locations. Open the attribute table. It's going to have all that same information that we saw on that project information page, just in a tabular form. In my layers list, you'll see that it's automatically turned on these 2 layers, and it has those filtered to those projects that I initiated from the project search page. Also, I want to go ahead and highlight that you can view this attribute information in a pop-up just by clicking on the feature. You can minimize that table to get some more real estate and dock that pop-up. So it's just another way of consuming all that project information, lots of ways to deliver that information so you can consume it however you're comfortable. But we're going to go back to that home page and now initiate this project search page from scratch. And I want to talk about the source of all of our project records. ODOT uses a system called ELLIS to track all of our project activity. And TIMS pulls information from ELLIS every night. So every day you come to TIMS, you're going to have updated information. But I want to briefly skim over the text at the top of this page and make sure that everyone's aware that not all of the projects that are in ELLIS, our internal system, are going to make it to TIMS, our public system. So the projects have to have a funding category in the list here on this page. And it has to have committed funding. I believe it has to have 50% committed funding logged in our ELLIS system. And it has to have a valid work location. You may see some records here on the project search page that might not have a route and CTL begin or end log point. That's the county true log. You might see it here, but then without that information, we can't draw it on the map. And that's how we know where to draw it on the map, by the route and the log points that are provided from ELLIS. Okay, so when we first come to this page, you'll see at the bottom of the results table, it's pulling in over 90,000 records. And you'll see that it can have multiple records for one PID because we're going to have a record in this table for each location that's logged for a PID. So we have some filters on the left-hand side to help you narrow down and locate the projects that you're interested in. And those should be pretty intuitive. Some drop-down lists. So you can choose a primary work category. I'm going to select add through lanes, and you'll see that it has narrowed down the total number of rows in my table there. I'm going to further filter by typing in fiscal year. You can either type it in or you can use the calendar icon and select. So you can see each time I select a filter, it's going to further narrow down that list. Then you can do by county or district. And if you open the drop-down list for county, you can either scroll or you can just start typing to jump to that first letter. And then a new feature in our newest version of TIMS is now you can filter by route. So if we take a look at what we have here in my projects, in my results table, I can sort to find a route, right? Or I can use this tool to narrow it down. I'm going to use this example ramp to kind of narrow down, take out the interstate routes that were in this list and just give me this specific ramp. So this tool is really focused for those that are really familiar with the linear referencing system that we use for Ohio's roadways. Every road has an NLFID, a unique value. It's kind of a smart value though. So if you're familiar with the format, you can start typing in any portion of an NLFID. So you can see I don't get a full list of the NLFIDs. I mean, there would be thousands, but I can start typing any portion of it. So say I know I want Summit County. I didn't know the jurisdiction. That'd be a C or an S as my first character. But I know I want Summit County. The next two characters are going to be the route type. I know I want a ramp. And then the route number is always going to be 5 characters. So if I was doing an interstate route, say Interstate Route 71, I would type in 00071. And for this ramp, I'm going to do 77117. So I've really narrowed down that list of my NLFIDs, and now I can select the record that I wanted. Now it's going to try to fill in the begin and end log point, you can see in this example, I've got some values that are greater than 0, less than 1, but greater than 0. So I'm just going to force it to get those values by typing in a 1. And now I'm going to click the Add tool. So you'll see that it's recorded that route and it's narrowed down the features in my results table. Scroll back over to the left. And again, remember we could click on any of these links to get that project information page. We could select one record, and then you see we have the option to view and map. And this view and map button is a responsive behavior. I'll try to point that out every time we encounter it throughout the application. But I see that option once I've selected these records, right? Now that I have them selected, that behavior is enabled, and I have the option to send to map. So you can see this time, I click the checkbox at the top to select all of those in my results table. And I'll click the view and map button. And just like we saw in the demo of the search by PID, right? That was a shortcut to filter on that project search page. This time I started from the project search page, narrowed down to the project of interest, and sent it to the map. All of these projects, see, this time I only have this points layer. So we want to talk about the difference between the point features and the linear features. And I wish I would have stayed on the project search page. I don't want to go back through everything, all of those steps. So I think let's remember how we can open that pop-up to view the information for one feature. And if I find the begin and end log points, here we go. You'll see I've got my NLF ID and I have my CTL begin, that's my begin log point, but there's no value for the CTL end. So, we talked about it's going to know where to draw those features based on that NLF ID. So it's going to say, I know I'm going to be on this route, and then I'm going to drop this point at this log point along that route. If I had two values, it could draw a segment along that route. So if I have two values, I'm going to end up with a linear feature. And if I only have one value, I'm going to end up with a point feature. So hopefully that's clear to everybody, and you're comfortable with how we have it split out between points and lines. And really that's a restriction of the GIS, geographic information systems, the type of data that we're storing on the back end. We have to store those different geometry types in different tables. So hopefully that's clear. And hopefully you're comfortable now with the project search page. You can drop any questions in the chat if you want me to follow up with anything. I'll try to circle back to that when I can. But now we're going to start fresh from the Create a Map page and start stepping through everything there. But you know what? Before we do, let's check in with my little my slides, make sure that I'm not skipping anything really important. We went over the home page, and hopefully you'll especially remember that information and support page where you can get lots of training resources. And we demoed that search by PID shortcut. Then we went over the project search page, talked about what projects are going to make it through to TIMS, stepped through all those pre-configured filters, how to get to that project information page by clicking the PID hyperlink, and then the behavior of that view and map link. We didn't demo that search tool, so maybe that's worth stepping back to. I'm going to get back to that page by this menu dropdown. Whenever I'm not on the home page, I'll have this menu option available in my header bar, and that's just a shortcut to the individual pages. So this search tool right here, this is what I want to make sure I don't skip over. You can use this as a generic text search within this results table. So if I'm able to remember that ramp number, that would be crazy if I actually remembered it correctly, right? So I think what I'll do step back through. Because I had a plan, guys. That's why I have my slides, to keep me on track. Clear that out, and I'll get the results where we were before. So now 77117 was the one. So it's further filtered where it found this value as text in either this routes field, or it could have existed in this PID list. Or I could use this knowing that I have that 5-character format for all of my route values. So it's just another shortcut to help you, if you know exactly what you're looking for, you can get to it faster. Okay. So now we're going to move on to the Create a Map page. Well, I have some knowledge checks if we do in-person trainings, but I've already gone into 20 minutes of our hour, so I don't want to take the time to do this now. What I can do is share this these slides later if you want to step through these questions that I've kind of sprinkled throughout and test your own knowledge. Okay, so let's go to the Create a Map page. And just a quick overview of the layout of the page. Starting on the left-hand side, we have this Tools pane. You see I'm clicking this icon in the header bar to collapse and expand. Next to it, we're going to have the Layers pane that will always be open by default when you come to the page, but you can collapse that for more real estate for the map. And then expand it again by clicking the Layers icon. We'll step through all the options for navigating the layers and what kind, how you can find the data that you're looking for in just a minute. But interacting with this map pane first, we've got some basic tools for zooming in. Always getting back to that full extent of Ohio with your home button. You can change the base map by selecting something from the gallery. I think by default, it's always going to open with this ODOT base map. And then we have these search tools in the top right corner. If you are on a mobile device, you can have it zoom to your current location. And this tool is going to combine all the ways that you can search. By default, it'll search all of these different locators we have configured. So you can just leave that. And then now you can interact with the map itself by right-clicking anywhere, and you'll have a few options there. We'll be using that tool a lot as we step through everything today. So this will be the first time I get that on your radar. Okay, so in our layers pane, you can expand the layer groupings and scroll through to see what's available, right? We have over 130 layers available in this Create a Map page, so it can be overwhelming. Now we've introduced a search tool just for finding in this layer list the subject matter that you're interested in. So say I'm looking for traffic. It's going to find layers that have traffic in the layer name, but also if we've tagged it on the back end. When you choose a result, it's going to pan to where those layers are available. And then you can check the box next to it to turn it on. Now notice that my two traffic layers are in a lighter gray text, right? And even though I turned it on, nothing's drawing on the map. If I select one of the layers that's in black text, you'll see immediately it draws. So this light gray text is your indicator that we've got a view extent, a view limit set. So you have to zoom in before those features will begin to draw. Keep zooming in until you see that the text turns black, and then the features will be drawing on the map. So hopefully that's pretty intuitive once you've learned about it for the first time. We give you an indicator in the layers list that that limitation is set and it's based on the scale. So if you see the light gray text, just keep zooming in until it draws. Let's highlight a few other if we're looking for different types of layers. Say we're looking for, all the ways we can view our project information. We saw that all project layers when we came to the map from the project search page, but we have a lot of layers underneath this projects grouping. If we turn on all projects, we're getting all of those records that initially loaded. And if I want to see only those layers, I can either scroll back down and individually turn off my traffic count segments and lines, or I can just turn that grouping off. It's an easy way to toggle back and forth as you're navigating multiple layers at the same time. We have all these ways of filtering out the project data. Just as another shortcut for you guys, if you only want to see what's currently in construction, we have the current projects lines, and basically this looks at the begin construction date and end construction date that are scheduled within Ellis and compares it to today's date. So every day that's going to be refreshed. Next to, let's go back down for a good sample. Let's do turn off our projects and go back down to our traffic data. And we've seen already that we can interact with the data just by clicking on it and getting that pop up. If I click somewhere where I have multiple features, you'll see my pop-up includes this drop-down, so I can toggle between the different layers. And if I've clicked somewhere where I have multiple features of the same layer, get you a sample of that. This one will do it. There we go. So for my traffic count station that time where I clicked, I had two records of the same data set, so I can toggle between those. And so this pop-up is giving us another example of that reactive behavior. It's going to look slightly different depending on the context of what I have selected, right? So just get that on your radar. Okay, and another way, let's also go back to that right-click menu. So I'm going to choose this location information. And this time I've selected, or I've right-clicked over a roadway. So it's also going to give me this NLF ID and a county log. You'll get a state log available if you're on one of the major roads. And if you're on an interstate, you'll want to be on the cardinal side of the road. Okay, you also notice in the layers list, I have a vertical ellipsis menu next to each layer. You may have already clicked on that. Hopefully you're curious and you're clicking around and getting ahead of me. That's what I want. But there we have a few more options for interacting with this data. We can initiate that attribute table. Remember, we saw that attribute table when we did the view and map from the project search page. So this context menu, this vertical ellipsis, or what I like to call the context menu, is how you can open the attribute table for any of the layers. And if a new enhanced feature of our new TIMS site is now you can open that attribute table and view all of the records without having to first create a filter. So we think that's going to be a huge benefit to you guys. The second option is going to give you information, metadata. That means like the data about the data. So it's going to open a dataset details page where you can get a description of that data set, all of the attributes that we have available for that data set. You can download the full data set pre-packaged in one of these file formats. See when the data was last updated. See those tags. So this is kind of the back end. We saw the tags when we searched the layer list. we reveal those tags to you here, and get a link to the data owner. Most often, that's going to be another office within ODOT where you can get more information and contact information, any manuals or help documentation that they might have. This is a good way to link to that. And that third option in the context menu was to initiate the filter data tool. We'll spend some time in this here in a little bit, depending on how much time we do have. All right, so let's take a quick look at my outline to make sure I'm getting through everything. So hopefully now you're familiar with navigating that layers pane, turning layers on and off. And this is my overview, so let's go. Turning layers on and off. When the light gray text is going to indicate that you have to zoom in to view that layer. We didn't talk about the legend, so let's make sure you're comfortable knowing how to open that, but hopefully you're now familiar with the options in that context menu and how to get that pop-up. Okay, so as I have layers turned on, I'll be able to view what the symbols represent by opening the legend. And that is here at the top of the layers pane. So it will be reactive as I turn layers on and off. And that's a good reference just to get an overview of what those symbols are going to represent. Okay. There'll be another knowledge check in there if you want to come back later and check your knowledge. Now let's dig into that the map portion of that page and demo those options we saw in the right-click tool and that search tool. I'm going to reset my page just as if we had come to the Create a Map page from scratch. And our goal will be to zoom the map to a certain location using these search options. So it's prompting us, we can do an address or a place. So I could type in, you know, a village or a city. It will zoom to that location. Or I could do an address. I'm here in ODOT Central Office today at 1980 West Broad. You'll always get this pop-up that's going to include coordinates. Just for ease, I'm going to copy that coordinate now. And in a minute, I'll show you I can just paste those coordinates in there. But let's do an intersection. So if we are on West Broad Street and High. Right, you can type in, and it will take a couple of formats for finding an intersection. You can type out and, you can use the ampersand. Or if you have coordinates, just copy and paste and hit the enter button on your keyboard. So I was able to find all these different types of locations without having to select anything from this drop-down list, right? But say I'm looking for something very specific and I don't want all of those results. I want to really narrow it down. I can pick MPOs. And see the boundaries, find the boundaries of those. I can find a township. So you'll see it'll have the township name and the county name. Okay, so hopefully super easy and intuitive how to zoom to the area that you're interested in. And then once I'm there, let's highlight the options. I'm going to click the X button on my search tool first to just clear that box. Let's highlight those options in that right-click menu again. We've seen location information several times. I don't think I can over demo that because it's such a great resource. It's just like the go-to to report a log point, to just find out what district you're in, to get the coordinates of a location. But you can also inspect this area more with the next two links, View in Map Channel and View in Path Web. So Map Channel is just going to be a publicly available conglomeration of the Google Maps views, but using the shortcut through TIMS will take you right to that location where you clicked. And Path Web is similar. This is the Ohio, it has to be a road that we had driven. Let's get to a more major road. Where ODOT has their, sorry, I'm not demoing it the best way, but ODOT has their vans that drive all the roadways and capture the photographs from all sides of the van, as well as scan the pavement, so you can link directly to this information. Clean up some tabs. I'll go ahead and note that those two tools are still available from the toolbar. Remember our toolbar on the left-hand side? You can expand your tools view. And here you can initiate those two tools where you would activate the tool and then click anywhere along the map. So two different ways to interact now. And then that final option, report an issue. So if you are on your regular PC and you have your email configured, your default email browser. I have everything closed today, so I'm not disturbed during our webinar, but you can click this report an issue, and it's going to initiate an email that has some text. It'll have a link to get us right back to the same location. And that's going to help you communicate what issues or questions you found with us, and it will help us respond to you. We'll understand more about what you're asking right off the bat. Okay, I see we're at 10:37. The hour sure does go by fast. Hopefully you guys are keeping up, and I can see that I want to make sure next that you guys are comfortable with the attribute table and that you know how to use that filter tool. So let's collapse that tool menu, and hopefully you remember how to open the attribute table. Let's pick a layer to demo. I'm going to turn on highway lighting. And then from that context menu, remember, I can initiate that attribute table. And I can have multiple attribute tables open. Just initiate each one from its layers context menu. Inside the attribute table should be pretty intuitive. Of course, you can scroll, you can sort any of the columns. You have the check boxes to the left where you can select records. And then once you have a selection, you can zoom to that selection or clear that selection. You have this export button, so you can get a subset of that data. Remember, we saw the download links on the data details page, but you can also just download a subset from the attribute table. And there's limits to this, 500 records from this attribute table. Otherwise, you'll want to get the pre-packaged full data set from that download page. And that just ensures that we're not bogging down the servers and we're keeping everything responsive. Okay, and then there's a couple of options over on the right-hand side. You can turn off certain fields if you want. We're hoping coming soon we'll have a button here to toggle them all on or off. So stay tuned for that. And then you can refresh data. So if you've left your browser open overnight, you come back the next day, you can refresh to make sure that you're pulling in the most recent data. Clear your selection, zoom to, export to CSV. You should be able to initiate your filter tool. You can have this table take up more of the page if you really want to dig into that tabular data. Collapse it back down or hide it at the bottom to keep it open, but give yourself more room to view the map. Okay, so let's initiate the filter tool. There we go. For this highway lighting layer. And there's 3 ways that you can build a filter. Let's dive in first to this first option. When I first open it, you'll see I've got the layer that I initiated from, right? That's important. You want to verify that. And then it'll have the attributes tab selected. I'll click Add New to build an attribute query. So you'll pick a field, an operator, and then from the list of available field values. So once I've applied a filter, it's going to show me my resulting records at the top. It's going to give me an indicator that I have an attribute filter defined. Over in the layers list, I'll see that filter icon, right? And in my attribute table, it has also been filtered down to that number of records. I could add more fields and build that query up as much as I want. I'm going to click clear all though and switch over to the spatial tab. So here we can draw a shape in the map. Let me zoom out more so we can see more of these features. Or I can just pick a geography. We'll draw first. So I've got lots of different options and I won't step through them all today, but you're welcome to play around and hopefully you'll find them intuitive. I'm going to start by just making a circle graphic. I'm going to click to activate that tool. And then in the map, I'm going to click down and drag to create that shape. When I let go, it's going to automatically apply that filter. And now, again, in the filter tool, I see the number of features I'm filtered down to, and I have an indicator on the spatial tab that I have a spatial filter defined, as well as the funnel in my layers list. Now, if I drew this circle, but say I actually wanted it larger, this first arrow on the left, I have a couple of ways to select a graphic that I've drawn. So I could select that and expand it. Then click away to deselect and it will reapply that filter. I'll jump ahead to demo the point feature. So usually if you're going to draw a point, you really want like within a perimeter around the point that I've drawn. So for that, you're going to want to use the buffer. So say within 1,000 feet of this intersection. And when I clicked, it just drew that circle 1,000 feet around the point where I clicked. And from there, again, I could select it and expand it. Let's clear that one and let's make a geography filter. So for the geography filters, instead of defining or drawing the selection graphic myself, I'm going to define it based on a geographic boundary. So we have a couple of options. I'm going to choose county. Let's say Allen. You can choose multiple and Ashtabula. When you're done selecting, just click away to clear to collapse that drop down. And now I'm going to click this add button to apply my filter. You'll see now I have my highway lighting within both of those counties. And again, I've got those indicators at the top of the filter tool, next to the spatial tab, my funnel, and of course, my attribute table is responding each time I update these filters. Okay. Back to our slide, just as an overview, hopefully you're familiar with all the items listed here. You know how to open that filter tool, navigate between the 3 different types of filters. And then when you're viewing those results in the table, you're comfortable with sorting, selecting the records that you can export, I believe up to 1,000 right now. I may have said 500 earlier, but we have expanded that to 1,000. And I've mentioned link to metadata. This little webinar window in my way, and there we go. So when I don't have anything selected here from this context menu in the table, I also have that link to metadata. Okay, some more knowledge checks that you can dive into later, but we have about 15 minutes remaining, and I want to give an overview of these more complex tools now. Again, let's refresh our page. And as that's loading, you remember we can right-click anywhere and choose location information, and it will report the log point for wherever we've right-clicked, right? Well, we still have that ability to type in a log point and zoom to that area. And that is available back under that Tools menu. Expand the Tools dropdown and pick the Find Log Point tool. So if you're familiar with the TIMS Classic version, then this should be pretty straightforward. You can do county LRS or state LRS. The county is going to reset at each county line, right? With starting again with log point 0. Choose a county, filter this routes drop-down list by type, but just start to type, or you can scroll all the way through, but a lot faster to just type. There you go. Took a quick second to respond, but then it is going to give me my minimum and maximum log points as a guide. And it's zoomed the map to the extent of that route within the county, right? And now when I enter a log point, it's going to drop a point to show me where that is. If I enter an end log point, it's going to zoom to the segment of that route. Okay. So next up at the top of this layers list, we have a few more options. And just as a quick recap, this X button, right, it's just going to collapse that layers list. Our legend is going to be responsive to what layers we have turned on and visible. Then this next option is add data. This is a really powerful tool that you can view your own data in the TIMS system. And with this new release, you can add in a REST service URL. If you're not super familiar with that, don't worry about it. If you do know what I'm talking about, you're probably very excited right now. I will demo one way that you can upload your data. I want to save time for questions at the end, so I think we'll just demo one. If you have a shapefile, of course, you could load that in, or a KMZ, it'll visualize that. But you can take a spreadsheet of data, say it contains addresses or XY coordinates, or in LRS events, that would be those NLF ID and log point information. If you had that in a spreadsheet, you're going to choose your input data, and then you're going to tell TIMS. It doesn't, of course, I've named them in a way so that we'll know what's in there, but we have to tell TIMS what we want to do with that spreadsheet. And I want to geocode these addresses. So it's giving me a list. It's already read that spreadsheet, and it's giving me a list of columns. Now I just need to define which column is holding that information. Zip code. Click read file. It's going to do some processing on the end, see if it can make sense out of that. And it's letting me know, yeah, I was able to find 12 features. When you click add layer, you're going to see a new grouping in your layers list. And it's going to bring all that information in to the attribute table. So I can interact with it just like any other layer. I can filter, sort. I can also, now that I have it in TIMS, I can export this data using the export from the attribute table and export as a shapefile or a file geodatabase. So now I've used TIMS as a conversion tool. Started with a spreadsheet, and now I have a GIS spatial enabled data set. The last option on this layers list is a sketch tool. Sometimes this can be useful if you just need to add a note and then maybe take a print screen or share that with a friend. I'm not going to spend time on this. Play around with it, and hopefully you'll find it intuitive. It's kind of the sketch tools are going to be similar to here we go. Choose your different format to the way that we drew our graphics in the filter tool. Okay, and then a few more tools over in the toolbar on the left-hand side. There's a print tool that will just give you a basic layout of what you view on the map, so you're welcome to play with that. Bookmarks, if you have areas in the map that you zoom to all the time, you can save those. This bookmark tool will use the cookies in your browser to remember those locations. But the most powerful tool is the share tool. And this is going to generate a smart link, but it's smarter than ever. Quickly, when you open the tool, you're going to have two buttons here. The share green button would be if you're on a tablet or the mobile version out in the field. And when you click that button, it would give you those shortcuts like send it through your messenger or your email. But when you're on your browser, you will want to click the copy link button. So if I click it right now, I have this in my clipboard. I can send it in an email or just paste it anywhere. And what that's going to do is reopen this TIMS site, zoom to the location with the layers turned on that I had turned on. You can see it even is remembering the data that I added with the add data tool. But wait, there's more. It will even remember filters that I have applied. Close that out. Oh, there you go. Yeah, if we reapply a filter quickly, I said quickly, so of course the system said not so quick. That's all right. So I have a layer turned on, it's filtered to a county. I have my own data added, right? I'll update that link. And we'll see it's going to bring back all of those details. So a super powerful way to save your areas of interest, to communicate with your colleagues. You can be on the phone discussing things, generate one of those links, and then immediately you're looking at the same stuff.
Hey, Katie, this is Steve.
Yeah.
You forgot to
Yeah.
copy the new link that you created.
I did. You're right, I did. Link copied. Thank you. And you guys are hearing Steve for the first time, and he's going to help us out here in our last few minutes to answer any questions that may have come up. So now we can see that's all the information I wanted to see. Oh, we flew through that. 1 hour is barely enough time, but I hope you guys are comfortable now getting into the new TIMS site and exploring. That you remember if you have old workflows, you can still access that classic site for a while. And of course, that you remember where to get more training resources from that information and support page. Step through the user guide, watch a few videos, see what kind of trainings we have coming up soon. And with that, let's see if we got any questions. Oh, I
Yeah.
see Steve's been very busy. Excellent.
Yeah, thanks, Katie. We've had several questions, and please feel free to read through those. And for the benefit of our audience, you and Steve are welcome to share your thoughts.
That's
Katie,
excellent.
I have them all listed. I can go ahead and read through them if you'd like.
We can, if you think that's important. There's so much that I didn't get to dive into on the site today. So how about if a question stands out to you that you think?
Okay. So I had a couple questions that we can answer quickly.
Okay.
Amjad had a question. Do you have a layer showing active work zones? We do not currently have that layer, but it will be coming soon. ODOT does have that data, and we will be adding it to TIMS. From Charles, if there is new construction for a signal at an intersection, and am I able to find the signal plan? Yes, if that signal plan is uploaded to ODOT's Office of Contracts page that Katie showed, you can link to it there. However, we do not control that page where the project plans are linked. So if that plan does not exist within that PID, you'll have to reach out to the district to get your hands on that.
Yeah, and I also want to invite you to explore the layers that you're interested in. A lot of them, especially if they go through our ODOT Asset Management Field Maps Collector program, within, of course, I can't be an expert on every one of these layers, but within, I don't know where signals is, I was just trying to guess, but within the attributes, a lot of times there will be links to other systems where you can view attached images. I may have picked the wrong data set, but I welcome you to explore the layers that you're interested in and look for those links in the pop-up or in the attribute table, as well as linking to Office of Contracts if you know the PID that it's associated with.
Thank you, Katie. There's another question from Baven. What is the difference between STL and CTL? Both have begin and end points. That's a great question. Our CTL stands for County True Log, where our mileposts reset as a route enters a new county. This is used for linking transportation data throughout ODOT. So we rely on CTL county log points very heavily. However, the state LRS, the state log points, do not reset when it enters a new county. So a route number will continue to ascend as you traverse the state.
Excellent. And hopefully you're kind of seeing, highlighting the state LRS using the find log point tool. So if you can play around with that tool, hopefully it'll help you understand the difference in the two LRS systems.
And then one more question from Jeff. Where do you find PIDs for a location? So I'm not sure if we're going to be able to answer this without more context, but briefly, I believe what you're trying to do is you want to search for a location first, either using the log points, that search bar, and then we have project layers that you can turn on to see what projects exist within that area. So from there, you could find a PID if that's what you're trying to do.
Yep, if you're zoomed to a location, you can turn on your all project layers or one of the filtered down versions. And then the labels for those layers, the top part of that label will be the PID number, so you can get an idea.
Yep. One more quick answer. There were a couple people that asked about clicking on the map to get log points and latitude and longitude. If you right click on the map on a road location and do location information, that will give you both the NLF ID and log points, as well as the latitude and longitude coordinates in decimal degrees.
Yeah, we were super excited about this right click option. And through a lot of our trainings that we've been doing, we realize a lot of people still are trying to initiate that action from the Find Log Point tool. But hopefully once you're familiar and you're aware that you can just right click, you'll find it a lot faster and easier to get to.
Okay, there's a couple more questions that we are running out of time. There's a couple questions from David about linking to the area or the historical aerial imagery. We do not have plans to do that yet, but that's an interesting idea that we can talk to our CAD and mapping team. And then the project title sheets, I'm not sure how to answer that question, David. I'm sorry.
I can say we have the most current OSIP imagery available as a base map. Yeah, and hopefully in the future we can figure out a good way to link to all the historical data.
So for those of you who were not able to answer those questions, David and Kevin, feel free to shoot a message to Katy or myself through that information and support page, and we're happy to follow up with you guys.
Yeah. I can even try.
All right. Well, any final words, Katy and Steve?
Yeah, thanks guys. I hope we kept your attention. I hope you found this really helpful. And please reach out to us with any questions or follow-up thoughts.
All right, well, sounds good. We want to thank Katy and Steve for presenting today's webinar. We really appreciate it. And thanks everybody for your participation. Have a great day.
All right, thank you.